Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Sabbath. So, as Brother Kasai did mention, I'll be talking about feminism. And I know that's a hot button topic. People hear the word feminism, they hear feminist. Some people do get a little riled up. And I'm here, I'll start off by saying I think every single person in the world should be a feminist. Now, I don't know how anyone feels about that. I see some disgruntled faces. I do think that everyone should be a feminist. Now, does anyone know what feminism is? No? Anyone on Zoom? Do you know what feminism is? Anyone at all? Try to make this a discussion. No? Okay. So anyone here know what feminism is? You guys are very quiet. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say, so feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the base of equality, right? So it is the belief that there should be equality amongst both genders or both sexes in political, economic, social, all the realms. And that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. So now you're wondering, why would anybody be against this, right? It's equality. Some people do believe that equality and sameness, is that the right word? Equality and being the same is equal, and that's not what it is. So just because we are different genders doesn't mean that we shouldn't be equal, and I'm not saying that we are the same, because we are different, right? God made us different, but it doesn't mean that we should not be equal. I hope that is making sense, because it makes sense in my head. I hope that makes sense to you all. So here's an example that I have. So people might think, oh, men and women shouldn't be equal, because they're different. So what about if there was, some people say, women are weaker, they're not as strong physically. So what if you have two boys? You have a 300-pound linebacker, and then you have a 150-pound skinny, sixth grader, whatever. They're, one is physically weaker than the other, but does that mean that they shouldn't have the same rights? They're both male. Should they not have the same rights, same opportunities? Right? You wouldn't say that about two males. So just because physically we are different doesn't mean that we should not have the same opportunities. And there's also a really, really good book I do recommend. It's a short read. It's I'll have to get the name of the author, but it's all about feminism. I'll get that in a minute when I pull that up. So here are some common thoughts against feminism. So there are millions of people who believe that we should not have equal rights, and some people already believe that we have already achieved equal rights. Do you think that men and women in America, I can only speak about America, have achieved equal rights, equal pay, equal everything, equal opportunity? No, I'm hearing no. So technically, feminism is needed because we have not achieved those things. There are thousands of people who believe that we're not there yet, as mentioned before, and then they support the continuing efforts to pave the way for equal rights for men and women. So they would be considered feminists. So also, I want to make sure that we don't confuse feminism with people who hate men. I know a lot of people do think that if you're feminist, that means you hate men and you want women to be in power. Again, that's not necessarily the case. Feminism just means that we should have equal rights, equal opportunities. If I'm doing the same work that you are doing as a male, we should be getting paid the same, right? But there is a pay difference in America where women, especially black women, are making less money on the dollar for doing essentially the same amount of work. So there's another point here. And also, we have to remember that there is gender bias. Does everyone know what gender bias is? So there's thoughts in your head that you believe that women can't do certain things, or men can't do certain things, or shouldn't do certain things just because they're men and just because they're women. So a lot of the time that also plays a role in feminism, because you believe that women can't go out and do certain types of work. And then you believe that men should go out and do certain types of work, right? So again, we just want the same opportunities. We want the same rights. We want an equal playing field. That's generally what feminism is, and I'll say it again. I think we should all, every single person, men, woman, boy, girl, all the way up to from 0 to 100 and above, should all be feminist. Yes, we have a question in the audience.
It's a misconception because I've heard some young people who promote feminism with some negative thoughts. Like they say, okay, men and women are equal, so I don't need the man to open the door for me. Stuff like that. That's a part of it I cannot appreciate, you know? They think that you should treat me just like, you're treating me like I'm weaker if you open the door for me and stuff like that. And the second one is, you know, like some feminists would say, why are men allowed to walk without a shirt, for example, and show their breasts, when a woman cannot walk without her shirt and show her breasts? That's feminism. So is that a misconception of feminism?
Okay, so the first point, what you're talking about with those are more goes to gender roles. So that is a little bit different. That's more on, I believe, if you go into standard gender roles, that's more like the woman should be cooking and cleaning and the man should be working. That's traditional gender roles. There's more to it, but that's like the gist of it. So I can still believe that we have the same rights, but also want to fall into traditional gender roles, right? So if I want to go to work, I should be able to. But if I want to stay home, I should be able to, just as other people should have that same choice as well. So you can be in a relationship with your partner and have an understanding of, these are the roles that I like, and these are the roles that I would like my partner to have, and then you just have that conversation about that. And then the other one, there are, I think it's called radical feminism. I might be incorrect about that, but there are different types of feminism where that is one of the points we're saying, well, I want to be completely aspects of life, meaning that whatever a man does, I want to do as well. And I think it's called radical feminism. I could be wrong, but that's one of the types. And again, I think that's just depending upon your personal beliefs. I think that at the core of it, if you believe that we should have equal rights and opportunities as human beings, this mic keeps going in and out, but I hope that answers your question. Any other questions on Zoom in the audience? Yes, go ahead, Sister Black. Okay. Well, I can't speak directly on their reasoning, but I would assume that's because if you're going to, OBGYNs is mostly for women's health. you would feel more comfortable with a woman nurse or a woman doctor speaking to them about your, like, you know, about women's health. But again, you want to be able to even the playing field. So they had the choice of taking those 3 months off while the women who were in nursing school had to continue to work. So that wouldn't necessarily be equal. So then you would have to, in order for it to be equal, either give everyone the option to at least study, because I think it's important for nurses to be well-rounded and to know about women's health. I mean, I'm not a nurse, so I would assume it's also important for them to know about that part. But if not, then also give them everyone a choice of a rotation not to take, to make it as equal as possible. You know, because you're essentially giving the women more work and then letting the men take time off, if I'm understanding correctly. And that's not necessarily equal. I understand the reasoning behind it, but, you know, it might have good intentions, but it wasn't necessarily fair. Any other questions, points before we continue on with our program? Okay. Okay, so thank you so much. There will be more opportunity. Sister Barnes. Oh, Sister Barnes has a question. Yes. One moment while we get her a mic. Okay.
You were saying that the female would have more work. Maybe you're right, but I'm saying the male would have less knowledge. And
that as
in
well.
America, if somebody falls on the ground, we were told not to touch them, let them paramedics come, so we would call them, and they usually come quickly. But in Jamaica, we don't have that stipulation. So I'm thinking that if a male nurse is passing a car accident, normally the nurse will stop. So if he's passing somebody who is having, say, a delivery, he's lacking in knowledge. So how is he to help? And he's a nurse. And you'll hear, oh, so the nurse there or the nurse gone. So I personally think that they should be trained. I don't know what's the reason in those days, but I don't think they do it anymore. Because there are male doctors too.
Right.
So what's the difference?
Exactly. So in order to be, like we said, feminism is equal opportunities and rights for both genders and both sexes. So like we said, we want both genders to have the same amount of knowledge, the same amount of opportunities, the same rights and things like that. So that's what that would be. Thank you, Sister Barnes. So we do have our next presenter who will be feminism is kind of taking the overview of everything, and now we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about certain parts of, and then we have Abigail here who will introduce women's rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Sabbath, church. My topic for this evening is women's rights. Women's rights are the right to live freely from discrimination and violence. It's the right to vote, be educated, own property, and to earn equal wage. Unfortunately, this hasn't occurred for centuries, and women across the globe have faced these issues. When do you think women were allowed to vote? And anyone can answer.
19 something.
Okay, that's like in the area. What
19?
exact year? Yes, that's correct. (1848) began the Convention of Women's Rights. In the 1800s, women had to give any money they made to their husbands. There was a common belief in the homes that women were only useful for taking care of the home and children. They often argued that women were incapable of voting due to their lack of knowledge in politics. But if this occurred, it was due to the lack of education being offered to women. After years of protest and suffering, the right to vote for women was finally passed by Congress on June 4, 1919, and ratified August 18, 1920. This made the 19th Amendment. Voting rights were not only human rights. Voting rights were not the only human rights women had to fight for. Education was also an issue for women. Can anyone answer why they think women weren't allowed to get an education?
Empowerment.
Okay. They were afraid to not be in power, men. Okay. In the early 1800s, different towns might have tiny rooms where girls were only allowed to learn a basic education. Trying to achieve a higher education was not socially accepted, and women were made into a mockery. It wasn't until 1836 when the first women's college was opened. Mary Wollstonecraft, Frances Wright, and Margaret Fuller were some of the pioneers who fought hard for higher education. Although years have passed and education hasn't changed, it wasn't until the enactment of Title IX in 1972 where federal law guaranteed the right to education free from sex discrimination. In current times, women have more opportunities when it comes to education and voting. On January 20th, 2021, Kamala Harris became the first woman and woman of color to become Vice President of the United States. Women's rights have come a long way, and we still have a lengthy journey ahead of us. But we all have a part to play, both men and women, to advance women's rights. So, does anyone have any questions on what I went over? Okay, I think we're good, and I covered everything. I covered everything. Nobody has any questions. So we're going to go into the next person on more issues. Tajay is on Zoom, and she will go further on.
That sounds like I'm not asking no questions.
Disclaimer, I don't have the facts, but these are the things that I found most. Are obese in the United States. Let's say that.
Hi, TJ. Can I ask a question? Right before, I'm sorry. Is there any difference between the physical activity between men and women, like the requirements or the recommendations?
Ready? Listen here. All right, so my topic is on women's safety. Okay. Just a few tips for women, as you're, out and about. Go ahead with the slide. Okay, so when you're in public, just be aware of your surroundings. Make sure you're not being followed in your car. So, don't just, play with your radio and whatnot. Just actually pay attention as you're driving and, notice if anyone is following you. If you're walking, go into a well-lit area with a crowd and call the police if you need to. Please trust and make good use of your gut feeling. Sometimes you kind of feel like, hey, something don't feel right. Follow that. Sometimes, majority of the time, you're correct. Also, don't take teasing or catcalling lightly. So, if there's someone that's around you that's, bothering you, don't just, they're just playing around. Watch out for that because it could lead to further things. As much as possible, avoid late night travel, especially when using public transport. Avoid being in dark areas with little to no people. Try to avoid being distracted on your phone, and or the younger people nowadays always have their headphones in. Try to be more vigilant. Lock your car doors and keep your valuables out of sight. Okay, when you're traveling abroad, it says use taxis and ride shares safely. So whenever the person pulls up, don't just hop into the car. Look at the license plate, and ask, hey, who are you picking up, and verify that before you get into the car. Be alert when you're dating and when you're traveling abroad. Look like you know where you're going, and also make sure that you do know where you're going. So if you need to, go on Google Maps or whatever iPhone people use, make sure that you actually know where you're going. You don't want to think that they're going one place and you end up going another. Leave like expensive items at home. Don't be flashy. Yes, don't have your little Rolex and your iPhones and your this and that. Know how much you want to spend, so don't take out like $300 when you're only going to be spending like 50. But even then, just try to have smaller bills. Put like a bigger bill like in a different area on your person, and just spend small amounts. Use and hide your phone strategically. So, in any case, don't just have it out. If you need to make a phone call because you don't feel safe, kind of just, hold it on to the side or whatever, or what you need to do. Dress appropriately for the culture, especially when you're traveling abroad. There's some places where, you can't show a lot of skin, wear shorts or whatnot. So maybe you have to wear something longer. It says buy a local SIM card to avoid high roaming costs. Also, you're able to be in contact with family members, or if you don't have WhatsApp on your phone, try to get that on your phone. It says don't leave your beverages or food unattended, because anyone can put any kind of thing into your food or in your beverages and mess you up. It's not done. Go back. Go back a slide, please. Okay, and also the 9th one, it says don't leave your purse or luggage unattended. You don't know what someone may put in your bag. Okay, now you can go to the next one. All right, and for dating, it says don't give a stranger your personal details. Keep it light. Just your name. It says don't give out your phone number too early. Don't post identifying information. For instance, don't, if you have your work uniform, don't have your badge out where they can see where you work, or even to see your full name. Also, like for the young adults, I know they take pictures and videos and whatnot. Don't post information about your school, or what school you go to, or details of events that's going on at your school, because they can easily locate where you are. Be careful about posting revealing pictures as well. Be careful what you're wearing, so you don't expose yourself. Meet in public for the first few dates. Always pick the place. Never lead someone on. Tell people about the date. So, make sure that, the person knows where you're going, like family members or another friend, they know the details, the time and place, so that if anything goes down, they can, come get you, or you can share your location. If you're not feeling it, don't be afraid to ghost. So if you don't like what's going on in a situation, you can just leave. Go say, I've got to go to the bathroom, or, hey, have a friend call you and say, hey, I need to get out of this situation. Please call and say, need to leave. Also, drive your own vehicle. Don't let the person know where you live, because they can end up being like a stalker or weirdo. Okay, and take your time getting to know the person. Don't just jump into the relationship and say, hey, we're dating, we're together, because they could be crazy. Thank you. And there's some safety devices. There is that females can use, also males as well. There's stun gun or strobe light. There's pepper spray. There's a safety alarm that can go into your keychain. There's an atomic brace. Sorry, it was supposed to be atomic bear attack pen. Also self-defense. You can take self-defense classes. It also says to be aware of yourself and others. There's safety apps that connect to your smartwatches, and also the most important, I would say, is to pray every time you leave your house and go out. Thank you. Oh, wait, hold on, my bad. If y'all ain't got any questions, y'all got any questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, he was. I think he was just saying thank you. You're welcome. True. Also, you gotta be careful with some friends because even those said friends can be dangerous.
All right, so just want to thank the presenters today. We should have had Kevin Neek presenting on gender equality. But just want to say thanks to everyone: Steph, Tiana, Abigail. Just want to say thanks to everyone for their lovely presentation. Also, Tajay as well. Did we learn anything from what was presented on today? Anyone wants to share what they learned from the presenters today? We should have added gun to protection. As it regards to using a gun for protection or for safety, how does everyone feel about that? I know Brother Andrea just made a point saying that when Peter was with Jesus, he was walking with a sword. What does everyone has to say about that? Do we say, oh, God is going to protect you, or is it a case where we're going to say we should be using our own wisdom? So Ella Edwards is saying that no one needs a gun. Gun is for killing people. All right, thanks for the share, Brother Chad. Yes, go ahead, Elephanton. Uh, Tajay or Brother Chad. I think it was Tajay. Any other questions? Thanks for that, Taji and Brother Chad. Thanks for the question, Ella Fenton. Any questions from anyone else as it regards to the program today? All right, so if we have no additional questions, just want to tell everyone thanks for joining us for AY. For today, we spoke about women's health, we spoke about women's rights, we spoke about women's safety, and we also spoke about, I'm forgetting the next topic that we spoke about. But just want to tell everyone thanks for sharing with us today. I'm just going to pray to close, then we're just going to turn over to Vespers. Let us stand for prayer, please. Lord, we just want to tell you thanks that you presented words of encouragement. You educated us today, Lord, as we're about to turn over to Vespers. Lord, I ask, Lord, that you will bless all the women of Margate. Lord, I ask, Lord, that you will bless all the women in the world. Lord, I ask, Lord, that you will just continue to be with us, Lord. I ask, Lord, that you will continue to be with your people, Lord. I ask, Lord, that you will just be with everyone who is on Zoom at this time, Lord. I ask, Lord, that you will continue to lead us into your everlasting truth. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Turning over to Vespers.